I'm just still always amazed, even after doing this for 20 some years, of how beautiful a fresh sheet of plastic inflated looks on a greenhouse. All right, the plastic is off, and man, that is a rare sight to see a greenhouse skeleton with no plastic on it. You know, I haven't even seen that for 6, 7 years maybe. Been a while. But we currently have 12 to 15 mile an hour wind gust until about 8 o'clock tonight. It's about 4:30 right now. So I'm gonna turn on that fan jet tube in there. That's the thing that distributes the heat. It's a convection tube with holes punched in it. It distributes the heat throughout the greenhouse. That thing is gonna be blowing all over the place. So I'm gonna fire that up so it's firm and rigid, you know, full of air. And I am concerned about all the little tomato hooks hanging there. They're swinging around a little bit. Not much I can do about that. And I do have some old plastic up on top. You can see that above the convection tube. That is so I can pull it out over the crop on a really cold night to help keep that heat down lower so it doesn't escape up into the ridge vent of this high 18-foot greenhouse. So hopefully that won't go anywhere. It looks like it'll probably stay put. Luckily it's not too windy. So tomorrow at 8 o'clock, my son and nephew will be out here helping me pull up the new sheet. Actually, it's not a sheet. Normally we pull up 2 sheets, but on this greenhouse we pull up a tube. Since it's only 24 feet on each side, we don't have to get a 48-foot sheet. So we got a 24-foot tube, so that's 2 layers all together. It's just like a round tube of plastic. We'll pull that up there, get it wiggle wired on, and we'll be good to go. Actually, we won't be good to go. I have some repairs to make. Let me show you what's going on here. Look at that. Oh man, that ain't good. You can look up in there and see the tube. So right there, that's not good. We got a big air gap there. We're gonna have to get that fixed. A big windstorm will come along and could rip that out. And here's another thing I need to fix. This is coming loose here. So the wiggle wire will be holding the plastic in this channel, and that needs to be super rigid and firm and attached well, because when it gets windy, that is a lot of stress on that. Let me go show you what's going on inside. This 2x4 along here has the channel attached to it, and you can see right here the channel has pulled away from the 2x4 pretty bad. So we're gonna have to get some new screws and screw this channel back in, because it should be up against that 2x4 nice and tight like it is down that way. Wouldn't take much for that to pull loose. Don't want that to happen during a windstorm. All right, let's get this convection tube fired up. Fan jet. All right, now we got this convection tube full of air. That should stay in place and hopefully not blow around in the middle of the night. I think it's gonna calm down a little bit tonight. And hopefully tomorrow, the weather forecast holds true and will be 2 to 6 miles an hour from daylight until noon. We should have it done by then. All right, we'll be back out in the morning to get this greenhouse covered. Good morning. It's about 7:30 a.m. and it's time to get this plastic on this greenhouse. We have one little problem this morning. It got down to about 29 and we had a heavy frost. So that means all the steel pipes, the hoops, the bows, whatever you want to call them, are covered in a layer of ice or frost. So we need to get this done ASAP. It'll actually help make pulling the plastic up easier, because it'll be like on a little layer of ice and it'll slide right up. The only problem we have to worry about is as soon as the sun comes up here in about a half hour, it's going to melt all of that and warm things up. It's supposed to be like in the 40s today. If that happens, if all that frost melts and it gets wet, the plastic will stick to it and will not move at all. And it's terrible when that happens. I've experienced that before in one of my other greenhouses. Very difficult to get the plastic up, almost impossible. So we're gonna get this plastic rolled out, get our strings tied on, get the strings thrown up over the hoops, over the top of the greenhouse, and hopefully here in about an hour we're gonna have it on. Another thing that I'm gonna prep here before my nephew and son come out to help is lay out all the wiggle wires, the wires that hold the plastic to the frame of the greenhouse. So I'm gonna go up on my little catwalk along the top of the peak of the greenhouse and lay out I don't know, 2 dozen I'll take up there just so they're ready to go. And if you're wondering about this plastic, this is a 100-foot sheet. A standard greenhouse is 30 by 96. This is a 96-foot greenhouse, so we should have 2 feet of overhang on each end. We'll get it pulled up, get it temporarily tacked into place on each end, and then start locking her down. All right, we got her all wiggle wired down. She is good to go. You can see it's fluttering just a bit right now because we're getting some like 4 or 5 mile-an-hour winds. You know, and it doesn't take much to make this a very difficult job. All right, let's go ahead and turn the fans on and get this thing full of air. You can hear the fans just fired up. We got one for this side because these are 2 separate pieces. That one's for this side, and this blower is for the new side we just put up. Sounds a little rough. I think the bearing's about ready to go out on this one. Seems like after about 6, 7, 8, 10 years, you know, the fans will go bad. All right, we'll take another look at it as soon as it fills up with air. While we're waiting for the greenhouse sheets to inflate with air, give you a little update on the greenhouse tomatoes in here. They're looking really good. Looks like 8 to 9 inches tall. There you can see how big they are compared to my hand. No buds on them yet, but they're getting close. Probably another week to 10 days and they'll start showing little buds. And that's when we'll have to put the bamboo stakes in. We have 2-foot bamboo stakes, and we'll clip the plants to the stakes to keep them from falling over. And right now I'm going to transplant grape tomatoes. So there's our first planting of grape tomatoes. Just little guys. That's just the right size to get transplanted. As you probably noticed when I walked in, the door was open. It's because it was already 95 degrees in here from just the sunlight. Incredible. I mean, we do have a fairly warm day today. It's probably 45 to, it might be 50 degrees out right now. So when it's 50 degrees outside and you got a little bit of sunlight, it doesn't take long for that greenhouse to heat up to almost 100 degrees. All right, we're back after lunch, and boy is it full of air. I don't know if you can see that through the camera very well. That is tight. I mean, it is literally like a balloon. Solid. And I'm guessing we have a good 2 feet of space between the 2 layers of plastic that were just pulled up. Pretty incredible that that little fan can inflate that entire greenhouse like that. You know, after I replace the poly, I'm just still always amazed, even after doing this for 20-some years, of how beautiful a fresh sheet of plastic inflated looks on a greenhouse. Hopefully that will last at least 5 or 6 years. If I can get 7 or 8 out of it, I'll probably consider leaving it on that long. But it seems like with the strong west winds that we have hitting this greenhouse with nothing to block the wind, and the brutal colds we have, just getting beat up by hail. One year I had hail on it, and I was on year 3 of the plastic. But you know, with hail dings, holes through the plastic from hail, I had to replace it. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll get at least 5 or 6 years out of it. The only thing left to do on this greenhouse now is to replace the plastic on the east side. But as you can see, it's holding air right now. I mean, it's on its 4th or 5th year at least, and I have new plastic for it, but it's definitely not an emergency to get done right now since it looks like it's in decent shape. Now, we just did the face, this south wall, the face of the greenhouse. It had been on there for 9 years, maybe 10, and this was actually where the hole was, right there. I'll throw that picture up right now so you can see that hole. But you see all the little wrinkles in the plastic? This was very, very difficult to put up. I am never putting poly on this face of this greenhouse again. The last time I did it, this building wasn't here. This is kind of my storage building. We keep fertilizer and things for tomato plants in there. But since that building was there was no way to like roll the plastic out and just pull it up and keep everything nice and square. So I had to carry it up on top of the roof there and wiggle wire right at the peak at that corner up there and just hope it was square. And then, you know, there was a lot of excess corner, a big corner there, and then on the other side, you know, the other corner, we had to flop it over and then pull it down and attach it at the bottom and the sides here. And man, it was a bear. That's why there's wrinkles everywhere. I just couldn't get it square. But once it gets filled up with air, it looks all right. I got to put my cap back on the exhaust pipe there, and this beast goes back up there yet. So I got to cut a hole right there, and it goes into the boiler. So we got radiant floor heat in this greenhouse. That's what all these black tubes are for. They warm up the roots of the tomatoes growing in those buckets. And here is the boiler without an exhaust pipe on it. So we got to get that pipe back on and cut a hole and run it through the plastic there. But yeah, we're getting close to having everything ready to go in here. Got to top off all these buckets with fresh perlite, check all the drippers, make sure none are plugged up. And I'm thinking we're 3 weeks away or less from getting plants out here. We'll get everything put away and cleaned up and fired up and be ready to roll here 1st of March. All right, now that we got the perlite out of the truck, I'm gonna fork it around to one of our greenhouses, the first greenhouse we're gonna plant tomatoes in here in a few weeks. Then we'll start filling the tomato buckets with perlite. It's not going to take a whole lot of perlite to fill these buckets this year. As you can see, they're like 8 to 9/10 full already. I like to replace the perlite every other year. We put fresh perlite in last year, so this will be the 2nd year. So normally, one bag will only fill 12 buckets, so it takes a lot of bags to fill 308 buckets, whatever's in here. But I'm guessing today it's only going to take 1 or 2 bags for each row of buckets, since they're so full, just to give them that fresh layer of perlite on top for the plants. Just as I suspected, it only took about a bag and a half to do each row. So pretty happy about that, because this perlite's expensive. It costs like $14, $15 a bag. And like I said, when the buckets are empty, it takes like 1 bag for 12 buckets. So it takes quite a bit of perlite. But yeah, in here, not too shabby. Next week, about 10 days, the plants will be ready to bring out here and get planted. But we have a lot of work to do in here yet to get this ready. We got to hang new strings on these 3 rows over here. These 2 rows have 1 more season left on those strings. I get 2 years out of a spool of string. And we gotta go through all the drip lines, pump water through them, and make sure that there's no plugs and that they're ready to go for plants. And then the boiler over here, I still gotta put the smokestack back on the boiler that came off when we were replacing that plastic, and fill it up with water and get that thing fired up. But it won't be long. In less than 2 weeks, everything will be up and running and pretty much fully automated. I just have to come out and check things and a few times a day and make sure everything looks good. Alrighty, well, it's Saturday night. I think I'm gonna call it a day. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you again real soon down on the farm.